Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it may be to you right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Scoopets podcast, and I am Suchitra. Today we have with us a very special guest, Miss Pirjo from Pori, Finland, which is like 3 hours away from Helsinki. Ms. Pirjo has her recent master thesis on educational technologies, and it was during her bachelor studies on healthcare and social services is when she realized that preventative healthcare is quite effective and education is a great way to empower individuals, which is why she solely focused on educational studies and received her preschool teacher's qualification from the University of Turku, Finland. Ms. Pirjo is a strong believer in lifelong learning and she loves experimenting with innovative teaching and learning techniques. Ms. Pirjo has varied work experience in education and care from Finland, England, France, and Belgium. Working at European School of Brussels was quite rewarding for her as it is the birthplace of ALO Finland's MOOCs, that is massive open online courses. Her voice has traveled all the way from Alaska to Australia via her interviews and podcasts. And in Singapore, they've even made an animation of her with the dark hair. Am I right, Miss Pirjo?
This is true. This is true. And I thought that I look pretty good with dark hair too.
Welcome to Scoopets podcast. How are you doing today?
I am good, thank you. And very wintry greetings from Finland.
All right, thank you.
Lovely to meet you.
Yes. And Ms. Pirjo, in our conversation today, we're going to talk about the Finnish education system in detail. We're going to delve deeper into it. So let's dive into our Q&A, shall we?
Okay.
Sure. So, Ms. Pirjo, Finland has got the highest high school completion rate, and as per the World Economic Forum's Global Competitive Report, it has got the best education system in the world out there. So could you explain what sets the Finnish education system apart from all the other systems out there in the world?
Thank you. There are other excellent systems out there also, but why Finland is considered unique and different and good is because of many reasons, actually. But the key factor is definitely the teachers. Teachers are highly trained. They all have to have master's degree all the way from primary school to higher levels. And in preschool, you have to have bachelor, but quite often they choose to do masters there also. And uh, because we have to have a good training, teachers are trusted as professionals, such as doctors or lawyers. Therefore, there aren't standardized testing, and we got rid of the school inspectors about 30 years ago. There might be some sample testing and sample inspectors checking that how you are doing overall, but mainly testing is done by teachers that they assessing the learning, which also means that when you tend to have a school system where everything is based on standardized tests, it narrows down the multiple intelligences
Yes.
quite badly to my liking. A lot of talent is left outside. And also, if the schools and teachers are penalized because they are not doing good in these tests, they start to prep and teach towards the test, which again, it
Yes.
narrows the curricula down even more. So this means that while a lot of nations are now looking into it, and I know that a lot of parents in India, for instance, are interested in Finnish education because nowadays uh, they know that future workplaces and workplaces even now, they value more critical and creative problem solvers and thinkers, and maybe even more in the future because everything that AI can do
Yeah.
is AI is going to be more good at it, better at it, and faster at it than any human being. Therefore, the creativity part will be more important for the kids in the future. So that's why a lot of people are interested in Finnish education. And I always say that yes, we don't test children until they get to their A levels, and even so, we do really quite well in international standardized testing, such as PISA, PIRLS, and TIMSS. So Finnish education can offer an alternative to heavy, high-stakes testing. Also, it's a lot more cost-effective. For instance, I don't know how much money is spent in India, but for instance, in UK, they spend 4 billion pounds just on testing. It's a lot of money. Think if that money was invested on attracting and attaining good teachers in schools.
Yeah, true. I mean, that was like a mind-blowing fact out there. And
Yeah.
Ms. Pirjo, you've just talked about testing and exams. And coming to exams, exams are dreaded by students all around the world, right? And it's so refreshing to know that the Finnish education system doesn't really have that setup of assessments and homework for that matter. So, how do you actually go about assessing a student's performance? What's the secret sauce of the Finnish education system's success?
They, well, like I mentioned earlier, the teachers still test their own classes, and of course, when you've been teaching for many years, you do continuous assessment. You can quickly tell that okay, my previous class was already here, and this class is maybe slightly slower with getting. For instance, mathematics is quite easy because it goes a bit like a ladder, doesn't it? That once you learn multiplication, you can move into division because you know that skill is needed to grasp the division. So teachers do it continuously,
Mhm.
and there's also this called Karvi in Finland, and they do sample testing, and
Okay.
then they can have a slight idea. And of course, we take part in PISA, which gives
Mm,
us good
yes.
information. And it's been lovely to notice. I think most of the teachers in Finland, they more proud of being an equitable system rather than being at the top. It can be quite hard also, and you face a lot of criticism also when you're at the top. So most of the teachers really don't care about it so much as they care about all of the children getting some sort of equal opportunities in life. This is the fundamental thing in our system. So, and the PISA recent years has shown that it doesn't matter where you go in Finland, whether it's in Lapland with Father Christmas or East, West, or down south in Helsinki, the differences between schools and learners are still the smallest in the whole world. However, the gap is growing, especially in the Helsinki area, which is slightly worrying.
Okay. All right. So these assessments and everything, the progress of a child, will it be shared with the parents, or is it like just the confidential information only up to the teachers, or is there a communication with parents, and how does it
There
work?
are parent meetings every fall and every autumn and springtime, and of course, then there is testing has slightly changed recently. So I'm hoping I'm not giving you the false idea, but it's about this how it goes. And then in Christmas time, they normally give feedback, but when you go to lower years, it's normally verbal rather
Yes.
than giving grades,
Yeah.
just to be fair, because the differences tend to vary quite a bit also before they catch up. And then again in springtime, the same thing.
Sure.
And of course, then PISA is published, and Karvi, what I mentioned, the national assessment, they will uh, they will be released in the news. But mainly it's then private discussions with the parents if there are any concerns,
Yeah.
special education needs, or whatever else. And then that is discussed with the parents themselves, and what parents can do at home also.
Yeah. That'll add extra help for the child.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Ms. Pirjo, most educators around the world believe that the Finnish education system is the best in the world. But in the recent
Lovely to hear.
years, but in the recent years, we've seen that the PISA, which is Program for International Student Assessment, has seen a gradual decline. So could you explain what are the factors responsible for it?
There are a few factors. Firstly, Finnish education system has faced many cuts recently. And this is my main argument that you need to invest in schools to get good results. It's demotivating for teachers if your funding is cut all the time. And even if you're doing a good job, you shouldn't be sort of punished for it and resources are taken away. It's a bit like shooting a good horse in the legs.
True.
But and it's frustrating also because most of the teachers, they want best for the kids in their class.
Mhm.
So we used to have an excellent special needs education program and support system, but especially that has had many cuts. Don't get me wrong, I love the idea of inclusion, but if that means for municipalities that they can save money out of the kids, then it becomes a burden of the kids, the learners themselves, and teachers too. That I like it that there aren't so many smaller groups, but some children, they really need it. They can be really highly sensitive children. So to continue with the special needs support system, that it needs to be there, that the inclusion is lovely and it can work, but it needs adequate funding and adequate system for it. There are children who need smaller group, if not all day, at least those days when they need it, or maybe perhaps in the afternoon when they start to get slightly more tired, that they need to be able to go to a smaller group if necessary and do their task there, because they can be easily distracted and they have a right to learn as well as other children in the class. So that has been a big factor. And also when Finland has been cutting, other countries have been investing
Oh,
more. So therefore Finland is still doing good, and it's still like I mentioned earlier, it's still equitable system. But however, the others have been maybe investing more, and that's why they're going higher when Finland is slightly declining. But I still wouldn't call it a bad system.
yes, yes, true. And Ms. Pirjo, Finland's education system is centered around collaboration and being cooperative, right? But if you look at
Yeah.
other systems around the world, I mean, we see students not helping their classmates or their peers just because they have this fear that their peers would outperform them. So, how would we
Yeah.
educate children to become global citizens rather than merely competitors in a global economy?
What a lovely question. That is a very good point. And I think the same applies to teachers, that if you have to compete for your position, why would you help your teacher next door if you have to be scared that you might lose your job if her classes learning results are better than yours? So it doesn't help. Another reason to get rid of the testing system. So I think it's just by educating both parents, children, teachers, school owners, principals, how important it is to collaborate nowadays. I mean, I can't think of many workplaces where you don't need the skill. I mean, there aren't many workplaces where your boss wants you to compete against each other. The, any business owner, they want you to be a collaborator, a team worker who
Yes,
really
yes.
pushes that team further, not just yourself. So I think this just needs to be addressed more, because if you learn that competing way of living and learning and teaching, it's so difficult to get rid of it once you get older. It just goes straight into your bones that this is the way we do things. So it's
Exactly.
difficult to learn it in your first workplace. You might even end up losing your job, even if you got a lot of data in your own head and you're very skillful, but you don't know how to share it or work with others. So we just need to make more noise about it, how important it is.
Yes, that was an interesting point that you've raised. And Ms. Pirjo, for the fourth year in a row, Finland is number one when it comes to happiness, right? And it has, consistently ranked as one of the world's best top education system, occasionally beaten out by South Korea, Singapore, and Japan, but you know what I mean, right? And
Yeah,
yes, and the fact that teachers are such an integral part of the education system, right? And there is so much
yeah.
widespread reverence for teachers, and also Finnish education system is more focused on experiential learning rather than just quantitative testing. So, how do schools build such environment for children from an early age, to bring about this phenomena?
I think it's been happening all around. I mean, for many years. So it's
Okay.
not just the latest curriculum. So when I teach train schools and teachers and school owners, I always say that you're not gonna get there by just clicking fingers, but you have to start from somewhere. And I also, even though I wish I could get rid of testing system like this, it's not going to go away straight away because there are so many parents who need to be convinced first, and school owners also, that this system is just so old-fashioned that it doesn't fit the needs of today's world or even the future. So but you have to start from somewhere. So when sometimes people are questioning that Finnish education system cannot work elsewhere, I always say that yes, you are completely right. There isn't a copy paste option. You can't just go and cut and drop it somewhere. You have to make it yours. I mean,
Yes.
I trust in educators in India. You can still benchmark and learn from other systems, not just Finnish system. And my point was being that Finnish system isn't purely Finnish. A lot of it comes actually from US educational theory, such as John Dewey, who talked a lot about democratic rights and how we teach them already at schools, and uh, and there comes the collaboration skills, etc. So we've had this already many years. It's not just recent couple of years. So eventually we just go, and also because we never had the testing system, so that hasn't been stopping it happening either.
Yes.
So I don't know if I quite answered your question, but yeah, the happy nation is also quite lovely. I don't think we are always just smiley, happy people, but because we got a quite a good system, not just educational system, but social services. We have excellent, innovative libraries to support schooling and parents. And I always say that educational system alone cannot fix poverty or social problems. So anything else, you need everything else to be in place to help the teachers to do their job effectively.
Yeah. Thank you for answering. That was like a difficult question, I must say, but
I know. It's difficult to narrow it down.
yes, yes. So, Ms. Pirjo, we've seen the impact of pandemic all over the world and in all walks of life, and especially coming to the education system, everything had to move to digital instantly. So, how did the schools take this transition, back in Finland, and what were some key takeaways that educators have learned along the way?
Well, I guess the firstly is that the digital teaching improved because you just had to go and teach remotely. And secondly, what I always emphasize, don't get me wrong, I love EdTech and I love it, how it can make world go a lot smaller, that it can help in teaching, but still life teacher learning relationship, it's 1,000 times better than teaching online. And what has come out in many researches recently, and what teachers noticed early already, that those kids who do okay, even in the classroom without a lot of teacher support, they do fine online also. They might also have a better support system at home, so that they can rely on their parents when, if they can't get everything out of the online teaching. But those who don't have that at home and already struggle with their own motivation and self-directed learning isn't there yet. Those have been fallen behind even more, and now they talk about even wider gap than before. So, but schools are open again, but they are, because of this new variant, they might have to close before Christmas. I kind of hope so, because then we protect the elderly that way, and there's only a few more weeks anyway. But the schools were only closed a couple of months when the pandemia came to Finland. Otherwise, they only closed down if the virus was going around in the school. And then they've done a hybrid learning, when you have some of the kids in school and some doing online, and then they swap, so that if there is someone infected, then only half or 1/3 of the school gets sick or in quarantine.
Yeah.
So there, so many things, but to keep it on positive, I hope that more teachers have found the benefits of online online learning and teaching also. I mean, I've been training teachers in India, and some of them found it maybe a bit stressful, that they didn't know how. But now once they have learned how to teach online, it's so much easier for them to really get into the online learning themselves.
True. And also, Ms. Pirjo, the pandemic has proved to be quite catastrophic, emotionally for teachers and students and everybody. I mean, we have come across the terms like Zoom fatigue, a lot of layoffs happening, social disconnection, and all of that. So, how did schools back in Finland have addressed this issue? What have they done for kids and teachers? Yeah.
Well, some of the teachers have been happy, because most of the Finns, we have cottages, so they could go to the summer cottage and just been teaching there. So you try to make the most out of it, that now you don't have to travel to work and back. But of course, there's an emotional burden that, like I said, that teachers are human beings also, and they only have the mask to protect them and disinfectant, and you can't really keep distance when you,
True.
especially when you teach younger children. So there is that emotional burden there. uh, and some children, of course, I mean, they miss their friends, but when the weather is good, they try to take them outside to play, etc. And I noticed that sometimes, especially with the younger ones, when parents still come and pick them up, when parents are also lacking that social life, when they working remotely, they tend to socialize more with the teachers, because that is their social life basically. So the connection between the teacher and parents have deepened in a good way,
Yeah.
to my feeling, but it can of course vary from school to school. So because we are all in this boat together, aren't we? We do
Yes.
live in a tiny ball after all. I mean, how quickly the virus goes around the world is quite amazing, even if we stop flying more nowadays. So they are
Yeah.
those, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, that the gap is growing, and and they are constantly talking about it, that what can we do so that we are not going to end up having a lot of children who will be marginalized because of corona. So the politicians are planning to invest a bit more into education so that we can have a bit more support there for those, especially those ones who are lacking behind.
Yes. And Ms. Pirjo, when teaching is done so uniquely back in Finland, when teachers are not just asking students to just read and by heart things, but rather think creatively and all. So I'm sure the recruiting process is unique as well. So what does it get recruited as a teacher in Finland, and especially for foreign educators who want to start their career as an educator in Finland? How does the process go?
Well, you have to do the masters in Finland to be able to teach in Finland. Maybe for that reason also, because we do have a unique system. So we want all the teachers to follow the same guidelines. And even though we have the national curriculum, obviously it gives you the guidelines, but you have quite a lot of space to move around the guidelines. So but I mean, if you're really super duper interested, please have a look in alofinland.com, because this is what I do, that I I try to offer mini courses on Finnish education, and not just about the theory, but to really have a quick look into classrooms and schools, how teachers do teach in variety of ways in Finland, just to give an idea and maybe an eye opener that okay, maybe I could try that. Academic subjects still matter a lot in Finland, but you need to pay attention to the everything else that goes with it. The collaboration skills, creative thinking, entrepreneurship is one of the Finnish competencies. Um, Self-directed learning, I can't quite remember them by heart, but I have them in me all the time when I teach. And teacher autonomy means that you have a lot of freedom to choose how you teach and what methods you use and which books you use also. But at the same time, with the rights comes the responsibilities, that you still have fit to fit all the criteria in the Finnish national curriculum.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ms. Pirjo, for answering all my questions. And uh, so we come to the end of our conversation. Would you like to add anything more you think that we've missed, or any of your inputs you'd like to add even more?
I love to connect with teachers and educators from all over the world, and I've been to India a few times and visited some of the schools. And I mean, I raise my hat to the teachers who might have 40 kids in a classroom. That is a really quite something to a big task to do. So raise my hat to you. And anyone who is interested, find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect and change ideas and thoughts. And I quite often post there also. And please check the Alo Finland courses if you're interested to learn more.
Sure. And thanks a lot for your valuable time, Ms. Pirjo. I'm sure our listeners out there would have gotten some really key insights into the Finnish education system, which they can apply in their immediate circle as well. Thanks a lot for joining Scooped's podcast today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.